We would like to hear the inspirational address from Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Shri Krishna Byre Gowda. He is one of the most forward-looking agriculture minister in India. So please join me in welcoming Shri Byre Gowda for his speech.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Rajiv, and for inviting me to this conference, and dignitaries on the stage, members of the agriculture scientific community from around the world. It's a privilege to be here, and in fact to be invited in the presence of such a distinguished body of agriculture scientists. So I consider it my honor to be here. I am not a scientist myself. I am from social sciences background. I'm a generalist, not a scientist, but I am not deeply into agricultural science so much as on the applied science side of agricultural science. So hence, with great expectation, I am here in front of all of you. And I'm also very happy that this conference is held in India. And I thank and congratulate ICRISAT for bringing this conference to India on a topic I feel that is most relevant to India amongst all countries, I feel at least. Because as you all have heard many times, India is dependent on agriculture, at least majority of Indians are dependent on agriculture. And one of the definitions of Indian agriculture, as you would have heard many times, Indian agriculture is a wager, is a bet on monsoon. So if it is a wager on monsoon, then that also shows our vulnerability to variation in climate, and hence Indian agriculture can be directly correlated how good or bad a monsoon we have had in a particular year. And within that, I come from Karnataka, and our vulnerability to monsoon is even higher than Indian vulnerability to climate and monsoon. In Karnataka, 70% of our agriculture is rain-fed, and 70% is in the range of 500 to 800 millimeter range of rainfall. Hence, our exposure is that much more. And what we have also noticed with climate change is that not only frequent recurrence of drought in the last 5 years, from 2011 till the current year, either consecutive or every other year, we have had drought affecting us. And it's not just drought. This year, out of 176 blocks we have in Karnataka, 160 blocks are declared as drought affected. So on one side you have drought, and with climate change, it's not just drought. In the last 2 years, I have had incidents of hailstorms affecting vast areas. I have had isolated areas of flooding, affected by high velocity winds as well. So this variability is directly impacting agriculture. And even during a normal monsoon, the number of rainy days has come down. So if the rainfall is not well distributed, cumulative rainfall may be adequate, but distribution is not well. So again, that affects productivity. So as my Minister of Agriculture, if there is any one thing that defines my job, it's actually not in my hands. It's the Indian monsoon, the unpredictable Indian monsoon. So for us, it's very, very, very critical. And hence, I emphasize having this conference in India is very important. And it's somewhere heartening to see, gives us a little bit confidence that so many scientists from around the world are really bothered about drought. And it's not just some of us in India who are bothered by it. It's good to see so many people working to come up with responses and mitigation devices. So we in Karnataka are experimenting quickly. I'll mention some of the responses we have come up with. These are science-based solutions. So these are some of the low-hanging fruits that we are trying to harvest. Of course, a lot of the discussion here has been fairly more specific, more concentrated, but some of the solutions we have adopted on ground are more simpler ones, but we believe they hold a lot of promise and they demonstrate that science-based solutions can show the way forward for farmers. So one of the interventions, because I mentioned that even during a normal monsoon, the number of rainy days has come down. Hence, if the rainfall is not evenly distributed, crops still get affected. So we have come up with a program in Karnataka of rainwater harvesting. It's a very simple thing. There is nothing complex about rainwater harvesting. It's an age-old concept, but we have built a comprehensive package around it. So we calculated that there's a fair amount of rainwater that runs out of farmers' fields, which during the dry spells, if it was available to the farmer, farmer can save his or her crops and in fact get much better yields. So we build these ponds in farmers' fields. It's not a community approach, it's a farmer-centric approach. So farmer has full control over the rainwater harvested, and he or she can reuse this water during the dry spells to save the crops. So ponds are age-old concepts, nothing new about it, I acknowledge. But now we line the ponds in order to conserve whatever little water is harvested. And we also combine it with mandatory application of water through micro-irrigation. So we provide either sprinkler or drip irrigation implements along with this, so that whatever little water is harvested is efficiently reused. So, and we also provide the pumping mechanism for this through government assistance. So what we find is that yields are going up by 50%, 60% with the protective irrigation that is provided by rainwater harvesting. So it has become one of the most popular programs in the last 2 years, and the farmer demand is very high. So we have built about 100,000 plus already in the last 1.5 years, and before this monsoon, we want to reach about 150,000 such structures across Karnataka. And we hope through this, even if there is a short drought or a uneven distribution of rainfall, we can help farmers cope with the situation. Another intervention that we are experimenting is with the Karnataka. The area under paddy cultivation is about 14%, but I think paddy takes up about more than 30% of our water resources. So we are experimenting with this direct seeded rice method in collaboration with ICRISAT and some of our universities. We find that through the direct seeded rice method of cultivation, we can save about 30 to 40% water. So it helps us grow with less rainfall, less irrigation through this method, and yields are on par or better. Cost of cultivation is further down, but we are able to save 30 to 40% water. And we started with about 10,000 acres. Now we have crossed about 130,000 acres coverage in Karnataka. And this year, coming Kharif, we are giving a major push to this technology across Karnataka so that it will build our capacity to deal with less and less availability of water in future. So also we are experimenting with protected cultivation for our especially horticulture and floriculture. This is one thing which has shown us that with about 25% of the conventional method of agriculture, horticulture, 25% of the water, we can produce 2 to 3 times the yield using protective cultivation. But the barrier here is high capital cost. So I hope scientists can come up with low cost protective cultivation structures. Then we can scale it up, and with very little water, we can continue to produce very high yielding methods and crops. So along with that, I think David would have mentioned, we in Karnataka are along with ICRISAT and our research institutions are also reorienting ourselves towards millets, because millets are drought tolerant and they have nutrition value is very high, their fodder value is very high. So we are traditional millet growers, but in the last 20-30 years we had moved away from millets. So now we are trying to put the focus back on millets. So that builds our institutional capacity for droughts in future. And the last one I want to talk about is probably what is more relevant to this body is our collaboration with ICRISAT, with our universities and the National Center for Biological Sciences is on genome-based molecular assisted breeding program. So in a consortium partnership, we have taken up 5 crops, finger millet, groundnut, pigeon pea, chickpea and sorghum. So we started this project about 2 years ago, and we already have a few varieties being tested on the ground, and we find that their drought tolerance has improved, and that the two objectives we have had was drought tolerance and trying to address the chronic disease that affects each one of them. So it could be wilt or it could be some borer. So through genome-assisted molecular breeding program, in a short span compared to the 6 years, in about 3 years, we are able to come up with varieties that are demonstrating 25-30% improvement over conventional popular varieties. So I believe this technology holds a lot of promise. This is only the first step of our objective. We intend to continue this project in a consortium mode to come up with even better varieties that are more drought tolerant as years go by. So I believe, as Rajiv was saying, that science can definitely help us overcome the challenge. And yes, there is a lot of scientific research going on, but some of it needs to be pushed to the level of policymakers or implementers like us so that we can take it to the ground. And we in India, I feel, we have a lot of low-hanging fruits that we need to harvest. I keep harping on this point. Yes, there's a lot of precision, high-end work going on, but there are still a simple water harvesting, rainwater harvesting can improve yields by about 30% and build our capacity to withstand droughts. The non-controversial molecular breeding programs can help us overcome drought partially. I think there are a lot of these, and I am a generalist, as I said, and I look at medical sciences. I see that genetic sciences are offering enormous possibilities and interventions in human sciences, medical sciences. Genetic sciences are offering solutions to many of the health problems the world faces today. I'm sure the same science can offer a lot of solutions to agriculture as well. Of course, probably there is a greater emphasis on human sciences, but I'm sure with the challenge of climate change, with the variability that has been talked about here, the unpredictability that climate change is going to throw, I think it is whether policymakers recognize or not, but using genetic sciences to help build our capacity to cope with climate change is as important, I feel, as human sciences and application of genetic sciences to human sciences. So whether it is as attractive, as romantic as medical sciences or not, I cannot answer that, but as an agriculture minister, I can tell you, coming from the ground, that it's very essential for us to come up with science-based solutions to the challenges being thrown up by drought or any other form of climate change that is going to come our way. So these incidences, I feel, are going to increase more and more. I'm sure a lot of the discussions that have taken place in the last 4 days here, I hope they will not only help us to cope with the challenges, but I hope these deliberations and the fantastic work that some of you are doing will also evolve themselves into packages which we can take to the ground level and try and help farmers cope with the real challenges that they are facing on the ground. That's the ultimate objective. I'm sure that all of you are working towards that. The research you do finally lends itself in a way that farmers can use in their fields. So from India's point of view, from Karnataka's point of view, this topic is very critical for us. Without exaggerating it too much, the experience that I as a minister have had in the last 3 years tells me that the solutions to the challenges of climate are a do or die situation for us in Karnataka. Because for the last 2-3 years, all I have had to do is deal with natural calamities, including drought. No matter what other work I do, when a drought hits, everything else disappears. What do I do with the drought? My drought responding to the drought becomes my only job. So unless we come up with an effective mechanism to respond to drought, not just respond to drought, but to proactively be prepared to deal with the drought so that we can reduce the impact drought has on our livelihoods and lives. Unless we come up with that, ways to cope with drought, not just to respond to drought, but to prevent the impact of drought, build the capacity of farmers to deal with drought, I don't think I as a minister can do anything more effective than the issues that you are discussing here today. So hence, from that point, I think it's a very, very critical issue, and I am very glad, as I said in the beginning, that to see so many of scientists from around the world putting their heads together on this very crucial topic. And once again, congratulations and thanks to ICRISAT for bringing this conference to India. And perhaps through the process, I'm sure some of the Indian issues would have figured into this. I keep stressing India because just the last point, in India, drought doesn't have an impact just on Indian agriculture. When a drought hits, we have seen in the last 2 years, it becomes a social psychology issue. It collapses the morale of 50% of the population. So we have also seen actually drought, incidents of drought correlate with farmer suicides as well in India. So when I say it's a do or die or a life and death question, so there is a life and death issue as well that is correlated to drought. So it's very critical, and hence I keep stressing, and I hope you will continue the fantastic work you've been doing, and we in Karnataka are willing to work with anybody who, any scientific body which can help us to reach technologies to farmers to build their ability to overcome drought. My salute to all of you for the tremendous work you are doing, and thank you for your very patient